Yeah, this is a plan that has certainly stirred up a lot of concern and interest. What more can you tell us about this overall plan?
Well, again, this is approximately 900 acres of leased private property in Scott Township. It's, of course, west of I-69, north of Baseline Road. Mm-hmm. The solar panels would occupy about 600 acres in this area, which is zoned agriculture. Mm-hmm. And they say that it'll power 20,000 homes and provide $200 million in investment, back into the community, and $30 million in tax revenue. Yeah. It's supposed to be a 30-year lease with possible 10-year extensions. They're going to be photovoltaic panels about 12 feet high max, and they'll track the sun automatically. There's going to be underground cabling to connect to the substation, and there's going to be battery storage and some overhead transmission lines. They're supposed to be wildlife-friendly, I guess we'll say visual buffers and, like a pollinator ground cover around it, some tree buffers, things like that. And so that's just the long and the short of that.
Sure. Well, so the agreement that the Vanderburgh County Commissioners are now considering, what more can you tell us about that? Any more detail there?
The proposed agreement kind of included the basics of what they plan to do, how they plan to handle it, and again, those details were hashed out with Attorney Mike Schottmeyer, who has handled other big projects for the county. For example, he was looking at when they're looking at expanding the area of the airport, not expanding the area of the airport, but applying more control over the area around the airport.
Right.
And so the umbrella agreement is for economic development. And there's a few areas of focus. For one thing, they're promising a $500,000 payment to the county for the purposes of economic development. And that's not supposed to include any other taxes or assessments that they're supposed to be paying. And that's going to be done in installments. There's part of that was also a decommissioning agreement. Of course, once they have 600 acres of infrastructure for solar and they decommission it, they have to get it all out of there. And so that's part of the agreement as well. So they have to take apart and restore the site more or less the way it was so that it can be restored to agricultural use as farmable still. They have to remove all the hardware within 6 months of the decommissioning. Also, if it's damaged by an outside force, like for example, if a tornado just whips right through it, they have to be able to get it up and running again within 24 months.
I see.
There's also a roadway use agreement. Of course, if they're going to construct this solar farm, that's going to take a lot of heavy driving on the roads, a lot of equipment. And so they're going to have to, shore up the road itself and upgrade it and update it so that it can actually handle all this. So that's also part of it.
Now, it sounds like we're getting into also some of the concerns that residents have, right? What sort of crowd did you have at this meeting? Quite a few folks, right?
There was a lot of folks, and I'd say there were so many people there for this specific topic that once the discussion was over, which the entire discussion is online, by the way, but once the discussion is over, they paused the meeting so that everybody could leave if they wanted to, and that left about 6 people that were there just to handle business afterward with rezoning and things like that. So there were a lot of concerns, and I will say that Mike Schottmeyer, he didn't say this exact thing, but he seemed to believe that this was a good agreement for the county, and he based that on other agreements that he'd seen. For example, there's not going to be the taxes are going to hit quicker for the county because of the agreements. So the concerns were a wide range, and of course, at the base of it is they don't want their neighborhood to change, which is understandable. But former physician Eric Cure, he referenced a different kind of solar project nearby and, on the other side of the county. They fought that, and the neighbors didn't want it then either. He felt that there were more productive uses for the land, not, or just keep it to be agricultural.
Right.
Mike Schottmeyer kind of suggested that the land wasn't as productive for agriculture as other areas. And so it may not be much of a loss, but of course, you watch the expressions of the people in the crowd, they would disagree with that. And several of the speakers offered to even show their yields because they were farmers in the crowd. They wanted to tell them that, yes, this is productive. But anyway,
You mentioned also that was a doctor named Dr. Cure. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, it was Dr. Cure.
It's just the right name for a doctor, I would say. But go right ahead.
Yeah, very fitting. But and there's this feeling that the farm is going to help the people whose land is being leased at $740 per acre per year. Mm-hmm. And I didn't look into this, and I'm going to mention this later, but most of those residents or most of those property owners don't actually live in the county. They just own the land. So
right.
It's not as much skin in the game, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Brenda Cook disagreed with everything said already, but she was concerned about the decommissioning of the plant. There's not a lot of details in the agreement about how exactly they will be decommissioned. Are they going to be taken and buried someplace? Are they going to be thrown into a landfill? Right. She would like some details on that. And she referenced other areas that had problems with getting rid of their panels. It wasn't in Indiana, but there were other areas.
Now, are there, is there just a life expectancy for this kind of a thing or no?
There is. Well, 30 years is the length of it. And I think 30 years is a good round number. There's a plant that's also under construction, or it's not online yet, but it's in Posey County, and that's got a 35-year projected lifespan. But so again, Brenda Cox was concerned about that. John Schroed, he was just concerned about losing that green space where there isn't a lot anymore.
Right.
Mark Welty, he said that CenterPoint Energy didn't have a purchase agreement with the electrical yet, and that means that this could not be helped. This might not be helping any local residents.
I see. Now you mentioned maybe some other solar farms. You mentioned the one that's planned for Posey County. Are there any other comparable solar farms in the area?
Well, not in the area. There's that little one that CenterPoint Energy operates in the city. The Posey Solar Project was development started in 2022. Mm-hmm. That's 190 megawatts, 1,500 acre site. Again, estimated 35-year span. Mm-hmm. And I
believe that one in Evansville you're mentioning, I believe, is along Morgan Avenue there.
Yes.
Like Morgan Avenue near 41. Yeah.
Yes. It's not a large, it's not hundreds of acres or,
Right.
But so that's supposed to come online this year. And, I haven't delved into this too deeply, but according to one news report, residents are already not happy with the way it looks. Mm-hmm. There are larger farms in cities like Lafayette and Kokomo. There's probably others.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else to add? I guess what is the next step in this whole process?
Well, there have been public meetings regarding this. There's been public meetings between Orion Energy and like the residents to talk about their concerns.
Right. There's
open office hours for that, and Reed Schmidt is the attorney, and he said that they'll meet with them as much as need be to discuss their concerns. I don't know how the Wednesday night event went. I didn't check in with that yet, but the next step would be to probably address these concerns, bring it back to the county. The county didn't even approve this agreement yet, so that it's the whole thing's tabled until they do that.
Sure.